Now for chapter 3. This is a true saying. If a man desire the office of a bishop, he desireth a good work. A bishop then must be blameless, the husband of one wife, vigilant, sober, of good behavior, given to hospitality, apt to teach. Now one must remember in chapter 2 how Paul had just written that women are not to hold positions of spiritual or doctrinal authority over congregations, but he did not want to leave the impression that just any man is qualified either. And right here we see him speaking of the position of a bishop, which is that of an overseer, which was a very dangerous position to hold in those days due to the persecution which was about to fall upon all the church. And so a bishop would be one of the primary targets of Christian persecution. But notice right here, a bishop then must be blameless, not able to be accused of from anyone outside or inside the church. He must also be the husband of one wife. David Guzik once again noted the idea here is of a one-woman man. It is not that a leader must be married. If so, then both Jesus and Paul could not be spiritual leaders in our churches. It's not as if they had to get married. But if you're going to marry, only have one wife. Nor is the idea that the leader could never remarry if his wife had passed away or was biblically divorced. Verse 3, not given to wine, no striker, not a fighter, someone in whom just goes out here and starts, not greedy of filthy lucre, not trying to just gain money, but patient, not a brawler, not covetous, envying others and all of this, one that ruleth well his own house, having his children in subjection with all gravity. For if a man know not how to rule his own house, how shall he take care of the church of God? Not a novice, lest being lifted up with pride he fall into the condemnation of the devil. Now a novice in this context does not mean, it doesn't really point to an age necessarily, but a novice is one in whom has just been converted. They've only been converted for, let's say, a year or two or whatever. And the idea is that a novice is much more apt to falling to pride, like the devil. And this is one of the many factors which shows the great importance of experience, being a Christian for a while, going through those trials, temptations, those tests, failing, getting back up, failing, getting back up, failing, getting back. And so through that becomes a humility upon a character. Verse 7, moreover, he must have a good report of them which are without, even the lost, meaning outside, without meaning outside. He must have a good report of them, that way they can't blame him for anything, lest he fall into reproach and the snare of the devil. Now, this is very important for any potential pastors to learn. That are without, he's to have a good report of those that are not Christians, lest he fall into reproach, meaning by their rehearsing or retelling his former life, and the snare of the devil, which Satan might make a snare of to discourage and cast him down, because they're going to come against you with all these accusations, or in some other way entangle him in unbelief and sin. McKnight commented, it is intimated that the sins which a person has formerly committed, when cast in his teeth after he becomes a minister, meaning brought up to his face, may be the means of tempting him to repeat these sins, by the devil suggesting to him that he has little reputation to lose. Well, what does it matter? You're already known as a drug addict. You might as well do drugs. And it's just this slippery way of Satan. Nor is this the only evil. The people, knowing his former miscarriages, will be less affected with what he says to them. All who are candidates for the ministry ought to consider these things seriously, which is a great reason for not becoming a minister right off the bat. After you get saved, 3 or 4 months of studying, suddenly you're in the ministry. That's really a bad idea, because you have to go through this time period of growth, showing others, proving others, building up a trust with the community and such. Likewise, verse 8, likewise must the deacons, now we move on to the deacons, be grave, not double-tongued, not given to much wine, not greedy of filthy lucre, holding the mystery of the faith in a pure conscience. Now, we all can guess what deacons are within the church. They're of lower rank, but mind you, rank within a church does not denote that you'll be lesser in heaven, nor does it mean that you're of lesser importance to God on the earth, no matter what rank that you are. Charles Spurgeon, he was the greatest of preachers back in his day, and he recommended that be the doormat, be the absolute lowest within the church, because Jesus says, the humble shall be exalted, and the most humbled on the earth are the doormats, the lowest of rank. You may be the most tested of all of us at that point. And it should be considered how we're talking about the ranks within the church during the meetings. Now, outside, everyone can be a preacher. Everyone. Going out, women, men, doesn't matter who it is. Matter of fact, I have regular Bible studies with my mom and dad all the time, and I learn tons from them. Still, to this day, it amazes me. There's always something to learn. We just bounce ideas constantly. But within the church, deacons are those in whom help out. They're the ones in whom take care of the offering, taking up the offering, dealing and managing with the classes. And Stephen and Philip in the Bible, they were types of deacons within the church back then. And we see how they preached outside of the church marvelously even. Verse 10, and let these also first be proved, be tested. Then let them use the office of a deacon, being found blameless. So there is this testing, this probation period for all. Even so must their wives be grave, not slanderers, sober, faithful in all things. Let the deacons be the husbands of one wife, ruling their children and their own houses well. For they that have used the office of a deacon well purchase to themselves a good degree, and great boldness in the faith which is in Christ Jesus. Worthy of note, the very first martyr that we know of in the church, Stephen, he was a deacon. And he was a deacon chosen for the specific mission, very important, to first die for Christ. Not Simon Peter, none of the disciples, none of the apostles as we would know them. Not Paul, not James, John, Stephen, a deacon. These things write I unto thee, hoping to come unto thee shortly. But if I tarry long, that thou mayest know how thou oughtest to behave thyself in the house of God, which is the church of the living God, the pillar and ground of the truth. And Paul is writing this just in case he was never able to come to any of the churches in Asia. And then he ends 1 Timothy 3 with one of the most marvelous things ever, and without controversy, without any type of doubting. And without controversy, great is the mystery of godliness. God was manifest in the flesh, justified in the spirit, seen of angels, preached unto the Gentiles, believed on in the world, received up into glory. Matthew Poole commented on this, how an infinite nature could be personally united to a finite nature, so as to make one person, is a mystery and a great mystery. When he was buried, he rose again from the dead, by which he was justified in the Spirit, that is, undoubtedly proved to be the Son of God. Christ being preached to the Gentiles, as well noted in this verse, was also a mystery, so great that Simon Peter would not believe it to be the will of God till he was confirmed in it by a vision, Acts 10. And he's believed on in the world. Different from Buddhism or even Islam, Christianity has found acceptance among widely different nationalities all over the world. The religion of the crucified alone, among all religions, has a fair claim to the title of a world religion. Its cradle, its beginning, was in the East, but it rapidly found a ready acceptance in the West, and in the present day it may be said not only to exist, but to exercise a vast and ever-increasing influence in all the four quarters of the globe.